You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
T-Wolves thump the Chicago Bulls thanks to 49-point. It was an explosion tonight from Ant-Man. Final score versus the Bulls, 127-108. What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. Jack Borman with me as always. He's live from the Target Center tonight. Give him a follow on X at JRBorman13. Jack, lots to get into, including Anthony Edwards' 49-point explosion. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKDOWNNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKDOWNNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, so Wolves coming off those back-to-back losses at home, trying to snap out of this little funk. Couldn't ask for a better start. I mean, Wolves get up 22-4 to kick things off. I mean, just started on fire. They built a 21-point lead, and they did it pretty quick. Then all of a sudden, it was like Bulls put together a 10-0 run, another 10-0 run, an 8-0 run. All of a sudden, Wolves are only up 2 going into halftime. Bulls actually led by 5 at one point, but third quarter, man, it was the Ant-Man show. 20 points in the third quarter alone. That was enough to build the lead back up, and they really never looked back after that. Final score tonight, again, 127-108. They moved to 28-23 on the year, 5 games above 500. Like to start just real quick, 60 seconds, big picture. They lost 2 in a row coming in. A lot of big injuries they're still trying to adjust to, obviously. But we talked about how you gotta make a dent in this homestand. You got 5 out of 6 left before the break at the Target Center to do some damage. And maybe as bad as things have felt maybe the past couple nights coming into this one, I look at the standings, you're sitting only 5 games out of third place in the West right now. So coming off this just absolute offensive explosion by Ant and the Wolves now tonight, where's the vibe check right now for you and this team? Just considering everything, all the factors, the injuries, trying to get the young guys some minutes, the schedule ahead, Ant coming off a almost 50 burger, all of it. Like, what's the temperature of this team, and how encouraged are you now for the path ahead? Because we got a lot of season left here, Jack.
Yeah, got a lot of season left. Still some time until the trade deadline tomorrow. We're not sure what's going to transpire there. Rather interestingly in this game, Lonzo Ball, his camp agreed to a 2-year, $20 million extension with the Bulls, second-year team option. He's still trade eligible, so that was something that's interesting considering that the Wolves have. There's been reports that they're interested in Lonzo Ball, so that's something to kind of keep an eye on. And maybe a guy like Jalen Smith would be coming along back in a package, maybe sending Randall out. And it was interesting considering that Jalen Smith really went off as part of that huge run that the Bulls had in this game. Again, for the Wolves to win this game, 127-108, only allow 108 points, considering that they allowed 50 points in a 13-minute stretch, bridging the first and second quarters after the Wolves built that 27-6 lead, I think it was. Then it was a 50-24 run for the Bulls over the next 13 minutes to take a 5-point lead. Kobe White, Nikola Vucevic, and Jalen Smith, like I said, all had stretches where they just kind of dominated, like 3-minute stretches of the game there. So for the Wolves in the other 35 minutes of this game to only allow 58 points is pretty impressive. Albeit the Bulls were shorthanded somewhat, considering they didn't have Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, or Zach Collins, the guys they got back in the Zach LaVine trade. So, but nonetheless, a good game for the Wolves. And again, they scored 127 points, considering they went 6 minutes in the second quarter without scoring a field goal, and went 3.5 minutes without scoring. So, for them to accomplish those feats on the offensive and defensive end of the floor, considering the downsides of that second quarter, rather impressive. But Anthony Edwards was awesome, no question about it. He had 14 in the first quarter. He had only 5 in the second quarter, and then explodes for 20 in the third quarter and 10 more in the fourth quarter. So 30 points in the second half for Ant-Man on the way to 49 points was a lot of fun to watch.
Ant tied Cat for the most 40-point games in franchise history with 13 tonight. He did everything he could to get that 50. That last one just would not drop. Nonetheless, he looks healthy. He looks explosive.
He looks stat pattern.
Yeah, he looks aggressive as well tonight. I know he was coming off that little flu or bug, whatever it was. Well, he shook that off and more. Well, what was unique, I guess, or special about the 49 points he put up tonight compared to maybe some other big nights we've seen from him in the past?
Yeah, I don't know that it was necessarily super unique. I think it kind of followed the same formula in a
Yeah,
sense of what he normally does when he really gets going. Is that I think a lot of it happens at home, right? Because of him just kind of feeding off the energy. But I think especially in that third quarter, it was nice to see him make his first shot of three, and then he got teed up pretty quickly after
yeah.
that. By Evan Scott, with whom he had some verbal battles. They had that ball go out of bounds that the Wolves challenged, and the Jaden McDaniels rule saved him and got Ant a couple more free throws when Ant was yelling at Scott for not calling a foul. But yeah, I think he after that point he gets teed up, and the Wolves are kind of sputtering a little bit. I have it here. The Wolves called a timeout. Where is it? Yeah, the Wolves called a timeout with like 4 minutes left. Yeah, 4 minutes left in the third quarter. They were down 82-79, and then Ant just got it going from there. It was, drilled a nice three off a staggered pin down and then blocked Giddey at the rim on the other end of the floor, and then had a putback and one where it just really felt like, in that huddle, obviously I can't listen to the broadcast, but it would not surprise me if coming out of that huddle, Katie Storm was talking about Chris Finch yelling at Ant, like, you've got to go take control of this game. And that's exactly what he did. I think, he just totally ratcheted up his intensity on the defensive end of the floor as a help side defender, especially. And that certainly helped get his offense going. I think from there, he just remained consistent in his downhill attacking, no question about it. And then, in the third quarter as well, was able to knock down 3-3-pointers, which was helpful too. But, I thought, again, for the second straight night in the third quarter, Ant took more than 10 shots. And for him to, just continue that aggressive mindset coming out of the break, I think was really important for them, and totally fought off the energy that, that he created for himself and his teammates on the defensive end of the floor. And that really got the crowd into the game, and helped him, just kind of stay hot. And the Bulls just didn't really have a defender that could hang with him one-on-one. And they actually also too lost him a decent amount off the ball when the Wolves would get the ball to the second side of the floor, and they'd get Nas involved in the action. They get Jaden involved in the action with Rudy. The Bulls did not do a good job of keeping up with Anthony Edwards on the back side of the floor. So that also opened up some opportunities for him to attack downhill and knock down a couple of open threes, which was helpful as well. But for Ant, in that third quarter, it was pretty much just a domination for him to score 20 points on 7 of 11 shooting. The rest of the roster only had 12 points on 5 of 15 shooting. So he really carried them in that third quarter. And then, it was nice to see the Timberwolves kind of respond and carry that momentum into the fourth quarter. I think they started 9-2 in the fourth quarter and actually won the non-Ant minutes. And then once Ant got back in the game in the fourth quarter, what'd they do? They go on an immediate 9-0 run to make it a 16-point game and kind of put it away. So it was good to see Ant create all that momentum in the third quarter, his teammates ride it in the fourth quarter, and then him kind of pick up where he left off in that third quarter by, having another strong fourth quarter, making 8 of his 9 free throws. He really got downhill nicely in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, and speaking of threes as well, we talked about how important three-point shooting was for this team specifically just last night. Was tonight the perfect display of why it's so important and the difference it makes for them from game to game? 42% from three tonight, Chicago 33%, 23 makes to Chicago's 16. That's a 21-point swing right there. You've got it in your notes. I see it. Wolves are 7-1 now when they make 20 or more threes. Seems to be kind of the magic number for this team.
Yeah, that is one of them for sure. I believe they're now 10-1 as well when they score at least 119 points. So I think, again, like, this team certainly is a defense first team, but when that offense can join and kind of match up with that defense, it's been a good recipe for them. And this was a game coming in where both teams are going to shoot a lot of threes. These two teams are both in the top 3 in the NBA in terms of percent of points that come from the 3-point line. And early on, it certainly felt that the Wolves were going to really run away with this game. just based off of their 3-point shooting early in this game. I mean, the Wolves were 4 of 8 from 3 in the first 3 minutes. They had more made threes than the Bulls had shot attempts in the first 11 possessions of the game. They had 4 made threes. The Bulls only had 2 shot attempts. By the way, it was hilarious that the Wolves got 4 offensive rebounds on the first possession of the game. Jaden McDaniels makes a 3 and Billy Donovan called a timeout. I thought that was funny.
Play. Yeah, that was
great. But yeah, I think again, like their 3-point shooting really bailed them out because their 2-point shooting was horrendous. The Wolves shot 20 of 47 from 3, 43%, like you said. And they shot 43% from 2, which is well below the league average. 22 of 51 from 2. And that was because of that short mid-range area. Again, that floater range area. When they're not able to get all the way to the rim, the Timberwolves really, really struggle to knock down floaters and those, short little push shots that you see. Some other teams really have success against the Wolves. But in that short mid-range area, they were 3 of 15 from the floor, 20%, which is pretty bad. So I think, again, when the Wolves were able to get all the way to the rim or get to the free throw line, I guess going back to the Ant conversation real quick, the unique part was that he was 17 of 18 from the free throw line for sure. Looking at the total overall box score, that's got to be close to a career high for free throws made. I can look that up during the break here, but
he was 16. Really... Ant was 16 for 16, 2:21 left in the game. They're trying to get him to 50.
Oh, and that was his first miss.
That was his first miss. He makes the second. He ends the night 17 of 18. But to your point, absolutely incredible job getting to the line tonight for sure. We could talk about Ant probably all night, but let's keep it moving. Plenty more deep dive from this one. Let's talk about the young guns and their minutes. Dilly, Clark, and Luka Garza as well. Maybe hand out some quick grades. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a chance at a huge return, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 bet. Why I love FanDuel? When you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Super Bowl 59's here. FanDuel's got endless possibilities for that game. Plus, while you're there, go check out some NBA future action as well. Naz Reid, 6th Man of the Year odds, still sitting at 6-1. It's all sitting up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, hand out some quick grades, some quick analysis, I guess, on the young pups with me here from tonight's win. Let's just start with Dilly. 16 minutes, just 3 points, 1 for 6 shooting, 3 assists, 3 boards, and a steal. Pros, cons, what'd you like, what'd you dislike, anything stick out, and what kind of grade does he get tonight, I guess?
Yeah, I think I would probably give Dillingham, a C or a C+. It was unremarkable. I don't think, he really did a whole lot that that was great. I don't think he did a whole lot that was bad in this game. He was 1 of 6 from the floor. Didn't have his 3-point shot tonight. Had a couple of open looks. Or he did make a 3. That first 3 made in the first half off a zip pass across the court from Nikhil was an awesome was an awesome look. But had 3 assists, no turnovers. I think they want to continue to see him, make plays and take care of the ball. So I'd say, the playmaking was probably, a B plus, and the scoring element of it, probably a D, D plus, C minus, just with him not being able to knock down some open shots. I just unremarkable. I think for a rookie, playing in short spurts can be tough to find your rhythm some nights, and that's going to happen
for sure.
It wasn't super positive, man. But it's not a game where I think it's worth killing the kid over. No, he was fine. He was -2 in 16 minutes. I think you give him about a C or a C plus.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Well said. Is it just me, or is Jalen Clark looking like a dude out there right now? Like led the entire bench with a +7 ±5 points, 2 for 2 shooting. Again, small minutes, small sample. but does all the nitty gritty stuff. It just feels like when I sit down and watch these games on both ends to just help his team out best he can as he continues to find his kind of footing in his role, I guess, in this lineup.
Yeah, he looks really, really comfortable, and he's kind of usurped Dillingham as that seventh guy right now in the rotation, and for understandable reasons. I think Chris Finch is a guy who, coming in and certainly he's been heralded for his offensive coaching throughout his career, but he's certainly, since he's been here with the Wolves, been a guy that has really trusted players that get it done on the defensive end of the floor. And Jalen Clark has certainly been one of those guys. Again, they're a +7 in his 22 minutes. He did a really good job, guarding some of the perimeter players on the Bulls roster between, Javon Carter and Kobe White and Josh Giddey for different stretches, and also took on the challenge of guarding Ayo Dosunmu, who's been a pretty good scorer for them in his last few games. So good to see him continue to make an impact on that end of the floor. And he had another offensive rebound tonight. He's really been active, sticking his nose in there on the offensive glass. He's continued to cut very well. He had a nice, knockdown catch and shoot corner three, which is good to see tonight. And then in the fourth quarter, had a really good slash late in the shot clock, second straight game where he's kind of caught the ball with less than 5 seconds to go on the shot clock and has been very well aware of it and has made a play. A couple nights ago, got fouled, and then tonight had a nice layup, cutting kind of around and through the lane for a nice left-handed finish with soft touch off the glass. So yeah, I think with Jalen Clark, it would probably just be another really solid B+ game for him. Has not made many mistakes at all. Has not played outside of himself whatsoever, and has been really fun to see him get consistent run here, because I think just having another really strong perimeter defender that you can go to maybe when Nikhil doesn't have his best offensive night, or Mike Conley is struggling a little bit offensively like he did again tonight, 2 of 10 from the floor, and they closed with Jalen Clark over Mike Conley, which was I don't think it's super notable, but it is something that happened. So
it's something for sure. Last and probably least, Luka Garza having a tough go lately, man. He'll want this game back for sure. Quick 7 minutes, gets yanked in the first half, never returned, -7 ± in his 7 minutes. Had a turnover, a personal foul during that small stint as well. Just not the offense you need to see to kind of counteract some of the negatives he brought tonight, huh?
No, and that was unfortunate, just because I think it was a game where he probably could have made a decent impact, considering that Jalen Smith hasn't been a guy that's going to take you off the dribble and really size you up and go score. He's been mostly a catch and shoot 3-point guy and just kind of battling on the offensive glass for offensive rebounds. And then, maybe a little pick and roll on the roll finish if he's there open. No, not a guy that's got a super deep offensive bag, but he took Luka Garza to the woodshed, 2 possessions in a row. Then Ayo Dosunmu dragged him out on the perimeter in isolation and just absolutely cooked him, and just looked like he had cinder blocks on his feet. And it's just unfortunate. I mean, we're seeing it more and more now that he's been playing since Julius Randle's been out, is that second units have totally been targeting him and have had absolutely zero problems scoring on him. And it's just unfortunate that, the Timberwolves in those minutes, have looked to kind of insulate him before. But again, like, they had a lineup in the first quarter that was Rob Dillingham, Jalen Clark, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, Anthony Edwards at the 4, and then Garza at the 5. Like, you just need to have at least one of Jaden McDaniels or Naz Reid out there if you're going to play him. And then they came back with Naz Reid instead of Ant at the 4 to start the second quarter, but that didn't even help. So I think if you're going to play Luka, you've got to find a way to play him with Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid, both of them, just to have some more length, so that, if he is trying to get switched out on a new island, you can come get somebody that can, you can kind of go kick him out. And I think the other part of it too is just playing Luka with Rob Dillingham is tough as well, just because, again, Jeff makes a good point there that, you can't insulate multiple players. And, with that lineup that they had out there, it's certainly more of a trying to insulate Rob Dillingham with having Jalen Clark and Nikhil Alexander-Walker out there. So again, trying to find your minutes where, you can get to Luka. I think it would make sense if, you maybe get to him. I don't know. I mean, just looking at this rotation here, it's tough to
it's tough.
It's tough.
It's tough.
It's tough to try to find minutes where he would play without Rob. And yeah, I think you'd probably prioritize putting Jaden and Nas in there rather than Jalen and Na in there. I think Rob is probably going to get picked on a little bit less than Luka would on the defensive end of the floor, especially if you're playing another team that's got small guards coming off the bench like like the Bulls do with a Javon Carter playing tonight. So but that was just unfortunate to see, and might be the end of the Luka Garza and the rotation experiment. And the other note just to kind of keep in mind is, Wolves have a legitimate need at backup center heading into the trade deadline. And the unfortunate part is that a lot of guys that get bought out, kind of around this time of year, are guys that make more than the mid-level exception. And because the Timberwolves are over the second apron, they cannot sign anyone on the buyout market if they made more than the mid-level exception on the contract that they got bought out from. So, Jalen Smith, ironically, is a guy that I would have said to look at if you're trying to upgrade at backup center. And, we talked about that deal earlier on in the show, but there's just not a whole lot of options out there if you're not able to trade Randall, which is unfortunate. And and I'll just say this. I know people have been commenting for more. Mo Bamba is certainly an option, at least in the interim. Leonard Miller, not a guy that's known for his defense. I'll say that internally. I think, he's been very strong as a rebounder and as a scorer for the Iowa Wolves, but the reason why he's not playing in the NBA is because of his defense.
Good to clear that
very
up.
Similar to Josh Minot.
Yeah. Because I see a lot of people game to game, and myself as well, very interested, very curious. A lot of high hopes when he was drafted. I know he's developed quite a bit, but good to hear it from an insider like yourself who's a little bit more tapped in why he's not getting those minutes. I want to circle back real quick. We got to go to segment 3, but just real quick, we were talking Ant free throws. Again, started 16 of 16 and 17 of 18. That last one would have got him to 50, but you pulled up a quick note. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so Ant tied a career high in free throws made with 17. And he also tied a career high in free throws attempted with 18. So he had one other game in his career where he went 17 of 18 from the free throw line, which was last season in November, a game against the Kings. He was 17 of 18 from the free throw line. So it was his third game with 18 free throws attempted, but did tie a career high with 17 career threes made or free throws made.
A couple minutes left. Let's talk about this Rockets game coming up tomorrow night on the back-to-back. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by BetterHelp. When your schedule gets packed with work projects and more, it's easy to let your priorities start to slip, even when we know what makes us happy. But when you feel like you got no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy, they're more important than ever. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, maybe it's time to give BetterHelp a try. Entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. So simple. All you got to do, fill out a brief questionnaire. You get matched up with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Go visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon. You're getting 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. I want to ask you about this Rockets game tomorrow night, but first, real quick, Jimmy Butler. Golden State for slow-mo, straight up for slow-mo. What do you think about that? Just kidding. What do you give us your 2 cents? Give us your 2 cents on Jimmy B hooking up with Draymond and Steph over there on the West Coast.
I'll be honest. When those reports started coming out, that the report is pretty much that slow-mo was going to go to Toronto, and then Toronto backed out of that. Yeah. And so the Heat now are saying that slow-mo is going to stay for now, but trading slow-mo would get them under the luxury tax line, and that's certainly a motivation for them. In trading Jimmy Butler, and I thought the return for Miami was pretty bleak, and kind of gives you a sense of what other teams are offering. And I think the funniest outcome in all this is that the Suns now coming out of Phoenix is the report is basically, the Suns are totally fine keeping their core together, and the hope is just that everybody's going to play better, is the report coming out. So you trade that you give up, I think, 3 seconds for Nick Richards.
Hmm.
And then you're unable to salary dump Nurkic. Beal doesn't want to leave. You flipped your 2031 first for 3 crappy other firsts. And now you're stuck with 2 guys that are pretty unhappy. Nurkic is already unhappy. But the 2 guys being KD and Beal. So just bad vibe central out of Phoenix. So I thought that was funny, but yeah, pretty horrible return for Miami. I was spending parts of the second quarter trying to find a way to get Slow-Mo back to Minnesota in a multi-team deal. It's just really tough with his salary number, but God, I'd love to see him back here. But yeah, really funny that, this is how we're going to get Andrew Wiggins and Kevin Love playing together for the first time after those 2 guys were, traded for one another in that initial deal that sent Kevin to Cleveland and Andrew to here. So yeah, very, very funny. And then of course you have the, irony of Jimmy Butler being traded for Andrew Wiggins. And that was part of the reason why, Jimmy wanted to leave here in the first place, was because they paid Andrew Wiggins a max and not him.
Right.
Even though those 2 guys are, have a great relationship still to this day. So very funny, all the different connections between the Timberwolves and this deal. So I like it a lot for Golden State. I think I was still shocked that the Heat wouldn't extend Jimmy Butler. And I think that was probably the best player that they're going to get. And I'll tell you what, when Jimmy Butler is out there really giving his all and playing really hard, he's still one of the 10 or 12 best players in the NBA. And to be able to pair him with Stephen Curry is awesome. And, they're able to keep a guy like Jonathan Kuminga, who has some much needed athleticism, considering that triumvirate doesn't have a whole lot of it. And I would keep an eye on Nikola Vucevic too. I would be shocked if Nikola Vucevic did not end up on the Golden State Warriors in the next 24 hours or so that he would give that starting lineup a little bit more shooting. So you could go with, something like Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, Vucevic, and then slot in, maybe a guy like Guy Santos or whichever of the shooters and wings they have will survive that trade deadline, whether it's Kuminga or Podziemski or maybe Buddy Hield. So
we'll see how the whole trade deadline kind of shakes out tomorrow, but maybe we'll save that conversation for tomorrow night after the Rockets game. But I'm curious your take and 2 cents about just how the West is kind of shaken out now after some of these big moves. Obviously, Luka to LA, Jimmy B to Golden State, a couple big West Coast moves there. But we'll see what happens tomorrow night and how the dominoes fall and go from there.
On that note, I would just say keep an eye on Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Okay. No, good to know. We'll put that in our back pocket, and we'll see how tomorrow. Deadline is at what time tomorrow? Is that like 2 p.m., 3 p.m.?
2 p.m. Central Time.
2 p.m. Central. There you go. A couple minutes left. Rockets up next tomorrow night. Wolves first back-to-back. It feels like in a minute. They've played Houston twice already, season series, I should say, tied up at 1 apiece. Rockets are sitting at 3rd in the West right now, 2 games back from Memphis, 8 games back from OKC, 1 game ahead of the Nuggets. Biggest strengths, weaknesses, what just sticks out, I guess, about this Rockets team, and how do the Wolves, I guess, match up with them tomorrow night?
Yeah, I mean, they won 4 in a row against Cleveland twice, Boston and Atlanta. So 4 really solid wins. And then they've lost 4 in a row since then. So they've lost twice to Brooklyn, and then they lost to Memphis and one other team that I'm drawing a blank on right now. But for them, Alperen Şengün's missed 3 of their last 4 games. He came back in their last game, but they still lost in rather hilarious fashion. They were up 4, I believe, and then they gave up 2 threes in the final 10 seconds to lose that game. The Nets stole an inbound when they were down 1 at that point, I guess. And then D'Lo made a game-winning 3. So it was, nice for them to get a feel-good win there. But yeah, I think, getting Şengün back is obviously huge for them because the Rockets in the last 5 games have been 27th in the NBA. So fourth worst in offensive rating. But they've still remained excellent on the offensive glass. So the Timberwolves are really going to have to do well there, and they're going to also have to bring their A game in the paint, protecting the paint. They give up 48 points in the paint tonight, which is fine. It's right at the league average, which is 48.5 points in the paint per game. And I think too, then, also when you look at Houston, it's just a team that, really does a great job of turning you over and and getting out and running in transition off of those turnovers. So I think Timberwolves have to take care of the ball, protect the defensive glass, and they can't over dribble. They really got to share the ball when you consider how many defensive playmakers the Rockets have between, Inman Thompson, who's been absolutely tremendous for them. And then, also have Tari Eason as well, who's been phenomenal as well. So, should be a really fun game and a good test for the Wolves. I think, hopefully we'll see a little bit, a little bit elevated sense of urgency and kind of want to and need to in that game, considering the Rockets are a much better opponent than who they've seen of late with, the Wizards, and then two teams in a row that have been kind of decimated a little bit by who they've not had because of trades. So
for sure. Good breakdown there. Last one, then we'll get out of here. Save the best for last. Most important. Can they make it 3 in a row, Jack, tomorrow night? Breaking for chicken? Come on now. 2 in a row already. Can they?
Hey, that's when the arena's been the loudest. I think,
everybody on their feet.
Inman Thompson is not a good free throw shooter at all.
Okay,
and
that's our guy.
There could be a situation where maybe he gets an offensive rebound in the fourth quarter. He goes up, gets fouled, misses the first, still feels all right. Then you hear the crowd roaring, wanting him to brick in for chicken, and who knows? But let's just say we're eating good at Chick-fil-A this week, my man. So
the blueprint, the blueprint's there for sure. Yeah, great stuff, man. As always, Ant explodes for 49. Wolves thump the Bulls. Final score versus Chicago, 127-108. They moved to 28-23 on the year. Again, 5 games above 500 now. As always, though, huge shout out to all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. All you guys coming in the chat and venting or celebrating with us from game to game. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Go follow Jack. He's on X at JRBorman13, live from the Target Center during almost every home game. Again, Rockets up next. That's tomorrow night. Back-to-back, 7 p.m. tip-off. And we'll catch you right here, same time, same place. But until then...